Alright, this video I want to offer my feedback on the Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder boxing match that happened just the other day on Saturday. Um, this is from my perspective. I'm not like a big boxing person. I practice martial arts, but I pay attention to this stuff sometimes, and I'm not a big fan of either, so it's kind of like an objective view rather than picking one over the other and you kind of favor one over the other. I don't really care who won, but I saw the highlights of it and I saw the knockouts and all this stuff, or the knockdowns, and basically they're both undefeated before entering in, and it's supposed to be like a big comeback for Tyson Fury. I think he was out of the ring for about 3 years and went through a lot of depression, and he was also even thinking about committing suicide, and he gained like a bunch of weight, became obese, and then worked out really hard to get back into fighting shape, and entered the ring. You know, he's a big guy, 6'9". I think they said he weighed like 260 pounds or something like that, almost 270. And Deontay Wilder was going in there weighing like just a little bit under 220. I was surprised at that. I thought that boxers would usually have to weigh the same exact weight in order to fight, but they allowed the fight to go on even though there's like a 50-pound weight difference. So I see that, you know, Tyson Fury had that advantage. He had the extra weight on him, the extra 50 pounds. Deontay Wilder had huge athleticism at his corner. He's just in really good shape. But Deontay Wilder just doesn't really have like great technique in boxing, but he has amazing punching power. So normally he would just knock out everybody. As long as he gets those hits in there, he'll knock them out. He was undefeated. 40-0, I believe, 39 knockouts. So this guy was, serious punching power, but technically, he wasn't sound. So he wasn't the type of person that would have like great technique, but he had amazing punching power. Tyson Fury, on the other hand, was seen as somebody who had a great reaction, great speed for his size, and just like really like a really good boxer. But he didn't have much athleticism on his side. He's a little bit more on the heavy side, just kind of like a little excess fat. Not as athletic, but his skill is definitely pretty good. But he was also undefeated. I think he was maybe 27-0 or something like that. But they're both undefeated. They're going in there and they're fighting to win the championship. But so my feedback, I think that Fury was definitely a better boxer as far as his technique is concerned. Like, he was able to like dodge and duck and slip a lot of punches and make Wilder miss a lot. So he had technique, but his athleticism, I feel, could be a lot better. I think that if he was a lot more athletic, he would be a lot better than he is. He has great skill, but he just lacks athleticism. I think that his punching power could be better because he wasn't able to knock down Wilder. Even though Wilder weighs a lot less than him, he wasn't able to knock him down. So, he has great skill, but his punching power is not as much, and his athleticism is not there. Not as much as it should be. Wilder, on the other hand, the way that he fights, the way he boxes is similar to just being wild. He just throws like wild haymakers, and usually for everybody that he faced before, it would work. But for this guy, he kept missing over and over again, and he was not, he was pretty much losing the match the whole time. But then he got knocked down in round 9, and then he got knocked down in round 12, which almost knocked out Tyson Fury. They're saying that the ref was doing a slower count and that he should have been counted out. but he wasn't. But do I believe that the decision was a draw? Do I agree with that? In a way, honestly, I don't think that there should be such a thing in boxing. I don't think there should be a draw. Back then they used to have 15 rounds. Now they dropped it down to 12. But when you have 15 rounds and it's an odd number, then there can't really be a draw because, if if one person wins 8 rounds, another person wins 7, then obviously there's a winner. But if you have an even number like 12, one judge gives 6, another judge gives 6, and then it's a draw. I don't think it should be like that. I think they should either go back to the 15 rounds as they had before, or they should do 13 rounds or 11 to make it an odd number, so then there will always be a winner. I think that in this situation where there's 12 rounds and there's a draw, they should make them fight one more round to see who wins. The fact that there is such a thing as a draw in boxing, I think is stupid. I think there's a lot of politics and a lot of corruption involved, and it's not fair. For a lot of these boxers who work really hard, and they put their lives on the line, and then there's not even an adequate outcome, and then they just label it as a draw. I think that's stupid, and I don't agree with that to begin with. And so that's kind of going against what the established rules are, just talking about that. But as far as the outcome of what the judges decided, I think it was fair. I don't think that, yes, Tyson Fury was a lot, he won a lot of the rounds as far as outboxing the guy, but he never even knocked down Wilder once. So, he should have at least knocked him down one time or 2 times, whatever the case may be, but he never did that. So he outboxed him, right? But when it comes to the numbers, he outboxed him, but Wilder knocked him down twice, and not just knocked him down twice, but he knocked him down on the 12th round and almost knocked him out. So when you are on the verge of knocking somebody out, when you almost get knocked out yourself, I don't know how you could confidently say that you won the fight when you almost got knocked out. Like, it just, he should have held it down and know that, hey, I'm winning this fight. This is round 12. Let me play it safe and let me just not get knocked down in order to more secure the win. But the fact that he got knocked down and almost knocked out, I don't think he deserves that win. If he would have never got knocked down, then he should have won for sure. But just the fact that you get knocked down once and you couldn't knock down your opponent one time, that's already not good. Even though that you did better in the other rounds as far as points are concerned or whatever the case may be, it's just still doesn't, it's not a convincing win. So especially when you almost got knocked out. This is not just like a quick knockdown. This is, he got up at the 9th second or even later, and he got hit hard. So I don't think that I don't think that Tyson Fury deserved the win because of those 2 knockdowns. Now, did he deserve to lose? No, because he did really well in the other rounds, and he proved his skill and his craft and his ability to pretty much control the majority of the fight. So I honestly think it was a fair decision, but I just don't agree with the way that the structure of the entire boxing rules are, as far as just having 12 rounds. They might as well just make it an odd number, 9 rounds if you want, 11 rounds, 13, 15, 17, 19. Like, do odd numbers, so then there will be an outcome. Not this even number stuff, because even with Triple G and Canelo, the same thing happened. The first fight, they labeled it as a draw. And honestly, I felt that maybe Triple G won that one. But then they labeled it as a draw. And there's just a lot of corruption, a lot of politics involved. Fury's coming from another country to come fight in America, and kind of Wilder kind of has this home court advantage type thing. And that's kind of, it's kind of expected. I mean, that's what happens in basketball. There's home court advantage, and the home court team gets more calls for them. And anytime when there's referees or judges, there's always going to be controversy, that, the outcome's not as expected. But it was a great boxing match that was very entertaining and very brutal. But, I think that a lot of these fights were like that back then. Back then in Muhammad Ali's time, when he's fighting Joe Frazier and George Foreman, like, his fights are always like that. But nowadays, you don't see fights like that often. It's just, boxers are just hand-selecting their opponents very precisely, only fighting against people that they know that they will dominate. But they'll rarely step into the ring to fight somebody that's going to actually give them a challenge. I think Deontay Wilder was kind of, he thought that he was probably going to win easily, because this guy has not been boxing for like 3 years. He got really obese. He was going through depression, and he came back and only fought a couple more times before fighting him. I think that he thought he was going to win pretty easily, but this guy, made it very difficult, and almost, he almost beat him. So I think Deontay Wilder respects this guy's skill and talent, and he probably knows that he either lost or he almost lost, and that he's lucky that he pulled out that knockdown at the end of the at the 12th round, because otherwise he probably would have lost for sure. So it was a close call for him. They're both skilled and talented, but compared to the boxers in the past, like Muhammad Ali and like Mike Tyson, like, it's not even close. Because they both had athleticism and skill back then, and they would fight these hard fights all the time. But Fury doesn't have the athleticism, and Wilder doesn't have the skill. Like, they both are deficient in something, and they don't have the type of opponents that they used to have in the past. And even the rules back then were structured differently, where they made it a lot more brutal in the boxing ring. Now they stop the fights really quick, and they don't let the boxers continue too long. They cut the rounds down to 12. They made the boxers really difficult for them to fight against other boxers that are really talented. They made it really, these boxers only fight against people that they know that they're going to win against. It's not like how it was in the past. And another thing is, like, it kind of goes back to the whole MMA, UFC rules thing that I was talking about. If it was those types of rules, then Fury would have lost for sure, because Deontay Wilder, as soon as he knocks him down, then he just pounces on him and just keeps punching him until he dies, or whatever the case may be, and then he wins. But in boxing, Deontay Wilder in the 12th round knocks him down with 2 punches. The guy falls down almost like he's unconscious, and then he's given like 9 seconds or 10 seconds to get back up, and which he did, and then he continued, and then he fought for the draw decision. But if it was like the UFC rules, then the guy, there's no, that would have never happened. I mean, Deontay would just keep hitting him after he falls down to the ground, and then he would get the win for sure. So you see how the rules, just how it changes just a little bit, completely changes the outcome of the fight. Like, if it was cage fighting, UFC rules, for example, Deontay Wilder would be the winner for sure, because he knocked him down, and then all he has to do is just follow up with the knockdown until until the person's dead, pretty much. But because it's boxing rules, he knocks him down. Fury gets back up, continues to fight, and it now becomes a draw. And then not only does it become a draw, but there's like 90% of the people out there on the comment section are saying that Fury won the fight because of his dominance of all the other rounds prior. So that's where I'm getting at, is that, like, just the change in rules changes the outcome. And under boxing rules, people are saying that Fury is the dominant person, the dominant competitor. If it was MMA, then Fury would be the winner for sure, because he just knocks him down and then kills him. But Fury is more like somebody who is not that skilled in technique. He has a lot of power, a lot of anger, and he hits hard. But when it comes to boxing, he was getting destroyed, as far as the technique is concerned. And this person that's overweight, that's not even in great shape, that hasn't been boxing for 3 years, comes in and pretty much almost dominates him. And then everybody, famous people and regular people, are saying that Tyson Fury outboxed him like hands down. Even Lennox Lewis is saying that he outboxed. I mean, everybody's talking about how Fury is so much a greater boxer than Wilder. But if it was MMA or cage fighting type of rules that favor the person that's out of control and just strictly violent, then Wilder would be considered like the winner, hands down, because he knocked him down twice. All he has to do is continue on with the beatdown, then he wins. So it just shows the contrast and difference of what real boxing is compared to just a person that's just angry and aggressive and violent. I mean, honestly, the way that Wilder fights, he's not really a boxer. He's just kind of like, he fights like a cage fighter, like someone who's just out of control. That's kind of how he fights. But you see, in the boxing community, they don't really they don't look up to that. They don't honor that. They look up to the Tyson Fury and how he's greatly skilled. And Tyson Fury, the way that he boxes is kind of like a shadow image of how Muhammad Ali would box. Muhammad Ali, the difference was he was even faster, he was even more skilled, and he was even in better shape than Tyson Fury. So Tyson Fury is just a shadow of what Muhammad Ali was. And people really respect that skill in a real boxer. Not just like the savage type of person like Wilder, who doesn't really have much skill, technique, but he just goes in there just trying to punch as hard as he possibly can to knock the person out. That's what he does. But that's more of like just a brute type of, it's just like brutal, and that's the contrast that you see. Just the switching in the rules changes everything. If it stopped at 8 rounds, and it didn't have, if they changed it from, they changed it from 15 rounds to 12 rounds. But if they changed it from 15 rounds to 12 rounds and then to 12 rounds to 8 rounds, then Tyson Fury would have been considered the winner for sure, because Wilder didn't even knock him down to the 9th round. So from round 1 to round 8, Fury was dominating the whole thing. Didn't get knocked down and was just outboxing him throughout. So if they changed the rules to 8 rounds, Fury would be the winner. Now if they had if they had it to 10 rounds, Fury would still probably be the winner. If they had 11 round, Fury would probably still be considered the winner because, Deontay Wilder only knocked him down on round 9, and it wasn't a significant knockdown, not nearly as significant as the knockdown on round 12. So pretty much, if the fight ended at round 11, Fury probably would have come out the winner, according to like boxing point system. But since they had the 12th round, and then that's when Wilder got that big knockdown down, then it became a draw. Okay? If it was like kind of MMA type of thing, where it's like, hey, after you knock them down, you can continue to keep hitting them, and then then you pretty much win, then Wilder would be the winner. Because he knocks him down in round 9, he just keeps going to hit them, and then he wins. Same thing that happened in round 12, just keeps hitting him, and then he wins. So it all just kind of depends on what type of rules you're talking about, and then what people value, like what kind of skill sets do they value? Do they value just this crazy fighting machine that just hits people as hard as they can and just continues to hit them even after they're unconscious? Like, then Wilder would be number 1. But like, this is supposed to be boxing and skills and all this other stuff, then a lot of people are praising Fury. Like, if you go into the comment section, so many people are praising Fury. You got 90% of the people praising Fury, saying that he won and Wilder lost. So in my eyes, like, none of this stuff is healthy, none of this is good, but honestly, like, every so often, when you have, like, 2 great boxers, as an audience member, you're kind of like, you're curious on who would win, and I wouldn't get involved in boxing. I wouldn't want my children to get involved in boxing. I don't support boxing like that, but because it's here, it is somewhat entertaining to find out who would win. And boxing, as far as the rules are concerned, I think that it's a lot more geared towards development of skill than what they do in the cage fighting. That's just not appealing to me like that. The boxing is more appealing, but it is extremely dangerous, and it's something that's not good for society. Neither is cage fighting, nor boxing, or football. None of it is healthy. But I'm just more of the boxing type of mentality that I see that is more about skill and more entertaining than what you would see in the cage. But people die in the boxing ring, and people die, on the football field. People die in the cage. This stuff, all of it is not healthy, honestly. But that's my feedback on it. I think that if they do have a rematch, I think if Fury just gets in better shape, that he should be able to win easily. All he has to do is just not get knocked down like he did before, and then he should win pretty easily. But before they fought, I honestly thought Wilder was going to win because of his athleticism and the fact that Fury, came off from a three-year break, and he was going through so much mentally, emotionally, depression and all that, and gaining all this weight, and I just didn't think that that he'd be able to do that well, but he did a lot better than I thought, and I think that if they have a rematch, that if he continues to work hard and getting in better shape, and then he should be able to beat him, like, no problem. And either of them fighting Anthony Joshua would be pretty entertaining. It's always it always sparks your curiosity to see who would win when you bring two people together that are undefeated and they've been doing it for a long time. You know, it's interesting. You know, when you got somebody who's 40 and 0 against somebody who's 27 and 0, it's interesting. You want to see what happens. I mean, and you learn from watching their encounter. And one thing I do respect about Fury is that he might not be in the greatest shape, but he shows like how good you could be when you get really good at the skills of boxing, like slipping and dodging punches and just basically being very skillful in what you do. That it's an art to it. That you might not be the you know, and it's the same thing that goes with martial arts. You might not be in the greatest shape, but you can still learn to defend yourself, and not only that, but you could be like one of the best, even if you're not in the greatest shape. You know, and that's what I liked about what Fury highlighted, is that, hey, you know, I might not be in the greatest shape, but I could beat a lot of people out there who are in much better shape than me. I could still beat them because I've worked on perfecting these skills. And that gives a lot of hope for a lot of people out there. That, hey, you know, I might not be in the greatest shape, you know, but I could still work hard and getting good at these skills, and I could still be one of the best. That's one thing that I liked about Fury and what he was kind of representing going in on this. Wilder, you know, he just has amazing athleticism, amazing punching power, and he is intimidating for people to go against. But I think during this whole experience, judging from how he reacted to after the fight and everything, I think it was a huge humbling experience for him. I think that he didn't expect to be tested to this level, and it was a huge humbling experience for him to let him know that he's not as good as he thought, because you know, this time around his punching power in itself wasn't good enough to win the fight. He needed to develop skill that he just doesn't have, and he needs to work on that if he wants to become better at what he does. I guess there are not enough great boxers out there to expose his weaknesses, because in order to be great, like somebody like Muhammad Ali or Floyd Mayweather or Mike Tyson, these types of boxers don't come by often. So there just wasn't anybody challenging Wilder enough to let him know that punching power in itself is not good enough. You still need to get good at these techniques, you know, of these real boxing techniques. Nobody was able to teach him that except for now Fury. It's like, hey, you know, I'm not even in great shape, but I could still beat you because your technique is off. You know, you just throw wild punches everywhere, and you don't know how to box. You are not good at boxing. I will still beat you, even though I'm not as athletic. I'll still beat you, and I think he got that point across to him pretty well, and gained his respect, and humbled him. You know, and I don't like the way Wilder, you know, the way that he boxes, and I don't like the way that the energy is too aggressive, and it's too arrogant. It's not humble. It's not, you know, it's not like a Pacquiao. You know, it's not like just, you know, a humble, like just, he's not humble at all. You know, and he just fights with anger, fights with just out of control. You know, and that's not how boxers are supposed to, you know, box. You know, and I think that he learned a lot from going against Fury. But Fury, he's somebody that he has a lot of room for improvement. I mean, if he was in great shape, then he probably would be one of the best heavyweight boxers out there ever. But his athleticism is not there. I mean, just look at his body, and you could see it. Be like, look, like if you just worked out harder physically, you could be so much better. And there's just not a lot of great Caucasian boxers out there, but he could change that perception if he worked harder. He could be considered like the white version of Muhammad Ali. But he just doesn't put enough effort into the physical athletic development of boxing in order to be like the greatest. Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, he's very athletic, but as far as his skill is concerned, I don't know how skillful he is. I know he's more skillful than Deontay, that's for sure, but I don't know if he's more skillful than Tyson Fury. But his athleticism is definitely there. So, usually you look at these boxers and you'll see something wrong that needs to be improved. But somebody like Floyd Mayweather, he has the skill and he has the athleticism. That's why he's 50-0, and he's considered like the best. So you look at every boxer, you see the strengths, you see the weaknesses, you see what they need to work on, and that these are things that need to be developed. These are things to think about. But there's a lot to learn from these boxers, and when they put their lives at risk, they go into the ring, and the way that they box, the way that they move, and everything that they display in that ring, there's a lot that could be learned. It is a dangerous, very dangerous sport, and that's something that we can learn, but it doesn't mean that we should get involved in what they're doing. It's just like watching these people doing stunts, and they perform the stunts is entertaining, but it doesn't mean that you should do what they're doing, because if you do, chances are that there's a good chance that you get hurt pretty badly. And these boxers, they're risking their lives, and some of them are getting paid money, but there's a good chance that they're gonna die early, die in their 40s, 50s, or get dementia, get Alzheimer's, get Parkinson's, just damaged brain cells, CTE. I mean, that all comes with it, and it's sad, but that's the reality. And the fact of the matter is, majority of us, probably over 99% of us, are not going to get paid to box. So there's no sense of us putting ourselves at risk, to put our bodies at risk the way that these boxers are. We're not getting that type of money. And even if we were getting that type of money, a lot of times it's not worth it. So learn what you can from these boxers, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should get involved into what they are actually doing. That's what I gotta say about that. And we'll see what happens if they have a rematch, or if one of them are gonna fight Anthony Joshua or whatnot. But thank you everybody for all your support. I'm very truly thankful, and you all have a good day or good night. Take care.